Hey, what's going on, everybody? I go by the name ShotofADRENALIN, and thank you for tapping back into the channel. Now, today, I want to talk about something heavy but very important, and that's what role does art play in war? If you haven't known, it's war outside. But when most people hear the word war, they think of, missiles, soldiers, headlines, destruction. But what people don't always realize is this: war is emotional, war is psychological, and it's cultural. And that means art always ends up back in the middle of it all. Right now, that matters even more because the United States is in an active conflict with Iran. And as of this week's reporting, troops have died. Oil and gas is back in the conversation. And people across the country are debating, what is this war even about? And why the hell are we even over there? So this isn't a faraway issue. It's right in front of our faces. This is the thing that hits and changes the world. So of course, what follows? Culture. And now here's where art comes in. Art helps people feel what the headlines can't fully explain. The news might be able to tell you where the bombs dropped, but the music tells you what the fear sounded like. A painting can show you grief, and a film can describe how an entire family's life changes forever. And that's the first job of art in wartime. It makes the human cost real. Because numbers don't always move people, but you know what does? Stories. Now, the second thing that art does is shape public opinion. Of course, we know governments fight wars with weapons, missiles and all that stuff, but they also fight wars with narratives. Think about it. Starts with messaging, then comes a patriotism, then wrapping the fear, and then propaganda, and then most importantly in that cycle is the silence. Art can either support the machine or challenge it. Okay? And that's why these songs matter. That's why murals and documentaries and the creators themselves matter. Because artists can make people do something very important, and that's to stop and ask questions. For example, wait, what's really going on here? It's a powerful thing to say, depending on when you're saying it. A current example I like to point to is Kalani's Next to You record. Now, what makes this important is that it shows how an artist can use their full presentation, and not just a song, the visuals, the symbolism, the messaging, even the fundraising, all to respond to a war and human suffering. Now, that's when art stops being just entertainment and starts becoming cultural pressure, awareness, and really action all at once. That right there is real power. And that is not new. Artists have always had a role in moments of conflict and resistance. Now, let's take it back a little bit. A legendary example is Public Enemy's Fight the Power. Now, technically, that's not an anti-war song, but it's bigger than that. It's a resistance anthem. It's about standing up against oppressive systems and questioning authority and refusing to let injustice feel normal. That record gave people energy, and it gave them language, and it gave them a soundtrack to push back. And that right there is what art can do in dark times. It can wake people up. And another strong example from back in the day that's outside of hip hop is a record called Zombie by the Cranberries. Now, that record in particular came out of the violence in Northern Ireland, and it carried the pain in a way that people all over the world could feel. That's one of those records where you don't need a whole lecture to understand the emotion behind it. You hear it and you leave knowing that conflict always leaves scars. And that's really the point. War doesn't damage just the buildings, it damages families, trust, childhoods, a sense of safety, sense of national safety. And a lot of times art becomes where people in society can process all of that trauma. Now, let's talk about what war does to a society. Now, in the United States in particular, war always causes political confusion, fear, division, and just overall more pressure in everyone's day-to-day life. Now, the most recent news reports show that the conflict is already driving some major wedges around war powers, raising concerns around energy markets, and of course, this anxiety increasing around where things are going to be going next. Globally, that's even bigger. War affects trade, migration, school care, housing, just overall stability. War itself is destabilizing. And then the artists, whether music, visual, fashion, dance, whatever, start reflecting all of that back to the people. Sometimes they comfort people, sometimes it challenges power, and sometimes it helps movements grow. So when a child asks, what can an artist do in war? A lot. Artists can humanize people, challenge lies, document the pain, show solidarity. It can also help people feel less alone. And more importantly, artists can push culture to ask better questions. How about that one? And no, by no stretch of the imagination does art stop a war. Let's be real. But art can move people. And move people move culture. And culture is what puts pressure on systems to change. That part right there is facts. So the next time you hear a song about grief or resistance or an injustice, don't just listen to it as entertainment. Really hear the memory in it. Hear the testimony, the warning. Hear somebody fighting to keep humanity alive. That's the role art plays in war. It helps us feel, that helps us question, it helps us to cope, and more importantly, it helps us to resist. All right, once again, I go by the name ShotofADRENALIN. Thank you for tapping in with me. And hey, I want to know what you guys think of the most noteworthy protest records. They can be anti-war records, they can be revolution records, whatever. Let me know in the comments. Until next time, take action. Thank you so much for tapping in on this video. If you're interested in learning more about the music or the creative talks that we have on this channel, please feel free to subscribe right here on YouTube. And of course, you can follow me on all socials at ShotofADRENALIN. Take action.